So here we have a general file in Blender. Delete the camera and delete the light by pressing Del on the keyboard. Then select the move tool and select the box and move it upwards. I'm going to have this flush with the center. So press and hold Control to snap to the grid. Now you see the bottom of the box is flush with the center of the scene. So I'm going to edit the object just a tiny bit. So I'm going to select edit mode and I'm going to select the face mode and I'm going to select the top face and I'm going to extrude the top face. By pressing and dragging this up, you can see that I'm extruding a new part of the box. So hold Control and snap it so that it's double in size. So let's go back to object mode. Now we're going to add a new object and we're going to add an armature which is placed in the center of the scene. But we can't see the armatures. Let's press X-ray mode. Now you can see. To rotate around this, you can press and hold middle mouse button. To zoom, just scroll your mouse wheel, and to move around, you can hold shift and middle mouse button to move to right, left, up, down. So now we have a tiny little bone here, which can't really do much yet. You can try to rotate it, and you will see that it doesn't affect anything on the box. But before we make it affect anything on the box, let's just make some more bones. So press 1 on the numpad or view viewpoint front. That's the same thing. So scroll in a bit, shift middle mouse, center it a bit, then select the bone. Select the bone. You can also select it from here, which is sometimes a lot easier. And go to edit mode, select the top, only the top part, not the whole thing, just the top part. Press E to extrude and hold Control to snap it to the grid and press to create it there. I'm gonna select the small ball again and then press move and I'm gonna hold Control and shift drag it to the middle of this box. Now middle mouse button will allow me to go back to the 3D view. Now to make this movable, to make these have authority over the box, I'm gonna select the box in object mode first, select the box, then select shift and then select the bone. I can also do this from here. And then I'm gonna press Control P and armature deform with automatic weights. You see I select the box first, then the bones, then Control P. This is to tell that the box is not going to belong to the bones, and that's the only correct way to do it. So now if I go to select the bones, I go to pose mode and I can now pose the bones and you will see, oh, well, it affects the box, but we have some problems on the bottom there, as you can see. And I'm pressing R to start rotation in this 3D view. Now to fix this problem, we're going to go back to object mode, select the box, select edit mode, and then we're going to select the vertex mode, and I'm going to select the vertex down there, and I want some information about this. And where can I find that? I can find this over here, this tiny little menu, and be sure that it says item here, and you can see vertex weights. So as you can see, bone and bone 001, that isn't really good naming convention, so I'm gonna go to armature and make this a bone bottom, and this was the last one we created, bone top. Now we can see. So if I press this vertex, you see that bone top has some authority over that vertex, and that is why it's moving. So I'm going to remove the authority of that bone to this vertex, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other vertices on the bottom here. Just remove it like that. So if I go back to object mode to select the armature back again, you can select it from the viewport, or you can select it here, and you go back to pose mode and you start scrolling or rolling it, and you see that the bottom corners here are staying still on the ground. So the model is essentially ready for animation now. We're gonna go to animation and we're gonna make sure that it's a dope sheet, and you can set it here, timeline, graphic, dope sheet, and then from there you're gonna set it to action editor. You're gonna create a new action, call this idle, press enter, press the shield to make sure everything saves. Just do it, I'm not going to explain it why. So once again, in the user perspective, press 1 or use the viewpoint and front, and we're going to reselect the X-ray mode here in object mode. So in here, go to object mode and select the bones. Make sure you have selected your idle action here, and now we're going to do something. So select these bones and go to pose mode, and now when you select the bone, press R, we can start animating the whole thing. So we're going to create a simple idle animation for this. So press A to select all the bones and press I to insert a keyframe. So we're going to insert a keyframe on location and rotation. That's all we need for this tiny animation. We just need the location data and the rotation data for each bone bottom and bone top. So at frame 1 we're going to select all, and we have, you see that we have a frame, and we're going to move it over to frame 20, and we're going to rotate the top one a little bit, and we're going to insert, I usually insert a frame for all one. You can insert a frame just for this bone, but I think it's good practice just to do the whole thing. So now you see if we move from 1 to 20 that it moves. Ooh, magic. So we're going to move it back at frame 40, halfway there. So to get the exact same as frame 1 or another frame, you can just see that you can select this, press Ctrl C, Ctrl V at this frame point, and as you can see it now wiggles back and forth. Easy. Let's just drag this line up just a tiny notch. Here you can see the start animation starts at frame 1 and ends at 250. So let's just change this to 40. So now you see it ends there. So now it loops from 1 to 40. So now we have a first animation. Remember to save as well going through. I have this as madbox.blend to save as Blender file. So after saving, we can create a new action. Just close this action, create a new action, and call this attack. And do this again, the shield, remember that. So let's have attack here, I, location, rotation, then have 10 frames where it kind of builds up momentum, and we're gonna add location, rotation, and in like 2 frames we're gonna have it attack. Then it attacks, it like leans forward and attacking strike right there. Select location, rotation, and as you can see I forgot one there, so let's just move this back and add the location and rotation for that as well. So bam, now it attacks and it loops back. So let's just say that frame 20 is the same as the starting position. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, easy. So let's make this end at 20 frames. So now we have an attack animation. It's that simple. So we have attack and we have an idle animation. Now we want to get this into Unity. So export it as FBX. I know you can use the Blender files as well, but for there's some small issues with it at the moment. So export it as FBX. Make sure you have the same settings as me, as minus is forward, Y is up, because Unity uses a different coordinate system. So just export the box with these settings. Export FBX. Now open up Unity and create an empty project. So what we're going to do now is drag in the madbox.fbx file into our project. So there you have it, you have the madbox.fbx, and if you select it you will see a lot of different settings about it. There's just one setting we're going to change, and that is the idle animation should be a loop. So this idle animation, you can see a preview down here, is going to be loop. The attack animation should just stay as it is. So let's add this object to a scene. Just drag it. You can drag it in the viewport, or you can just drag it here. So yeah, I didn't apply that. So now we have the box inside our scene here. So let's make it do something. So add a component, add a script, new script, and make it a Madbox. Just name it Madbox. And then open it up. I'm using Visual Studio 2017. If you're using Monodevelop or anything else, it will still work. But now we have an empty script for the box, which is nice to have. But we're going to add one thing before we begin. That is create a animation controller. So Madbox controller. And we're going to put this on this object. So select the Madbox and let's drag this over here as the controller for this object. So open up by double tapping or double clicking on that. This is the entry set. This is what happens when you start the scene or the object is instantiated into the world. And we're gonna create we're gonna right click and create an empty. This is new state, and we want this to have the idle animation. Just gonna call it for idle, and ta-da, that's done. So if you go to the scene now and start and try to play the game, you can see that our object moves. Ta-da! And to make this a bit simpler, I'm going to drag this in its own window over here, and then I'm going to move the camera a bit. So let's move it. Okay, I want the camera to have the same view as my scene view here, so I'm just going to select the camera, press Ctrl, Shift and F. Now you can see that these align. The camera will align with the scene view. So go back to the animator controller by double tapping it or selecting this tab. I'm going to add one new create state, empty, and we're going to call this attack, and going to give it the attack animation. So now we have the attack animation, and I want that after the attack I want it to go back to idle. Simple as that. So now we have that, we can go back to the script and start doing some cool work here. So add an animator, anim. We're going to reference this controller that we were using, because we have to tell the code that we're using this controller now, and this is the one we're going to choose. And we're going to tell it that this controller is the box's controller, so we're going to get a component. We're going to get the animator component of that. And in the update function here, I want to be checking if the mouse button is pressed down. So input get mouse button down. I'm going to write a 0 there just to make sure that it's checking for the left mouse button. 0 is the left mouse button, 1 is the right mouse button. And if that is pressed down, I want to play the attack animation. So I want the animation controller, which we are talking about, which we reference in here, and I want that to play the attack animation. And there you go. Save, and now we're gonna play the game, and now you have the object idling, and if I press the mouse button now, it attacks.